From the King George's Estates outside of downtown Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Good Wednesday evening, everybody. And welcome back to KC in 60 right here on DARPATV.com. Kevin Canessa here with you for the next hour or so. And to all of our regulars, I welcome you back to the program, which we've brought back for the first time in a long time. And to anybody who may be here for the first time, I welcome you to the program as well. And it is an extremely, extremely busy Wednesday night. I have so many things to get to tonight. I'm not even sure if we're going to be able to really even touch the surface, which often happens with these big news days, because there has certainly been a lot going on in the news. And I'm going to lead off with something a little non-traditional, KC in 60 type of thing. And that, of course, is the death of Sherman Hemsley. And Jim and I were talking about this yesterday a little bit, and he sent me some video clips, and I must admit to spending about 2 hours last night watching old clips of the Jeffersons TV show, which I didn't even realize ran for 11 seasons, I believe, 1975 until 1985, or maybe 10 seasons, if I did my math properly. But it was just an absolutely unbelievable show that I loved as a kid. And anybody who grew up in the New York area will always be able to say that not only did they watch the shows when they were new, but they used to show reruns on Channel 11 almost every night. Sometimes they would do 2 episodes a night. And as a kid growing up, that's what we did. We watched Channel 11, watched the reruns of the Jeffersons, because, my God, it was such a great show. Just absolutely hilarious. And what's most remarkable about the Jeffersons, something we probably didn't realize at the time, but when you look back at some of the storylines that they tackled, bigotry, racism, cheating, you name it, they tackled it. And I couldn't understand it. And Jim told me, Jimmy Graham told me yesterday that really it was Norman Lear, and they were basically told, just do it, and do it well. And that's exactly what they did. They took on topics that other shows wouldn't, and probably couldn't now. I mean, there are certain episodes of the show where the N-word is used very, very freely. I'm going to show you a clip of one episode as well, which was probably one of my favorite episodes of the Jeffersons. And I want to set it up just a little bit so you get a sense of what was going on, because if you just see where I start off, you're not going to necessarily understand it. There's an episode where Tom Willis, the Willises, Tom was played by Franklin Cover, married to Helen Willis, who was played by the late Roxy Roker. Both are dead now, unfortunately. As Jimmy was also telling me that it's really only Jenny who's still alive and Marla Gibbs who are still alive now from the cast. It's remarkable. They're all gone. Ralph is gone, the doorman. So is Mr. Bentley, and they've all died. It's really remarkable. And some of them died very young. Isabel Sanford was substantially older than Sherman Hemsley was. She died, I think she was 85 when she died, and he was just 74 when he died just the other day. So I never realized what a big difference in age. Jim is saying almost 20 years age difference. And I think it really hit me last night because I was watching an old clip of Isabel Sanford on the Rolando Watts show. You can really go back to that when Rolando Watts used to have a talk show. There really was a big difference. So this episode, the Willises get robbed. Tom loses his stereo, his TV, and a whole bunch of things. And it catches an elevator with a guy who is a leader in the KKK. But Willis doesn't realize this, because he's an airhead for the most part. And he agrees to come to the meeting and bring his friends George and Bentley. And the Pathmark guy, indeed, the guy who was the spokesman for Pathmark for many years, and if those of you who were fans of Little House on the Prairie, he was the guy who came back to steal Walnut Grove when they all blew up all their houses. This guy played magnificent roles. So in this episode, he is he's leading the KKK, and in the course of the whole thing, he doesn't Willis doesn't realize what's going on, and he brings Bentley with him, and he invites George to come, and that's where we come to this scene in the show where the KKK is having a meeting in the building, because what Tom hears him say, he's talking to his kid on the elevator, the KKK guy, and he says that he wants to clean up the riffraff. And, of course, Willis thinks just the element of crime since his apartment was ransacked. But here is the clip. This is from the middle of the series. I want to say it was like 1981. And George, Tom, and Bentley are at a meeting, and George does not realize that he's in a KKK meeting. Take a look at this remarkable clip from the Jeffersons on a day that we remember Sherman Hemsley.
Thank you. All right, if I can have your attention, please. All of you are here tonight for the same reason. You're looking for an organization that can protect your belongings and your lives. Well, it's my pleasure to introduce to you a man who represents just such an organization, Mr. Herbert Purcell.
Thank you, Stan. Friends, we have a serious problem on our hands. There are undesirables around us who are up to no good. They're trying to take away what is rightfully ours. And I, for one, am sick and tired of it. Now, what are you doing here?
I'm on your side. I'm behind you 100%.
I find that hard to believe. We're trying to get the scum out of this building.
Right on, bro.
I can't believe this.
Oh, I told you this little guy is dynamite. You tell him, George.
No. You listen to these guys because they're talking my language.
You've got to get people like that out of here.
Damn right, we got to get people like that out of here. And the only way we're going to do it is by joining together.
You're not joining anything. This happens to be a KKK meeting.
Bet it is. Everybody here is happy party, K.
The scum we're trying to get out of this building is you, boy. We are dedicated to white supremacy, but not through violence.
Well, that's all you bigots have ever taught is violence.
That's the old Klan, not the new Klan.
Look, garbage still stinks no matter how fresh it is.
Good one, Mr. J.
Okay, you want to talk about garbage? I'll tell you what's garbage. The people on welfare living off white people's money, that's garbage.
None of that is true. You just hope by saying it enough times people will begin to believe it.
You don't know what you're talking about, Tom.
Oh, really? Well, for your information, I happen to be married to a black woman. And I don't have...
Sir, you are a black man. Now get out of here.
Take that foreigner and your nigger-loving friend here with you.
Oh, listen now. Hold it right there. It's one thing hearing it from you, but when you start feeding that trash to your kid...
My son knows the truth and isn't afraid to speak it. Now, we'd appreciate it if you'd leave, because we don't like talking to Negroes.
Don't worry, you don't have to do no talk with my fist shoved down your throat.
And you call me violent? Well, you're living proof that white is right, that we are superior, that white supremacy is the salvation of this country.
Dad! Oh, no. It's his heart. He's got a bad heart.
You took the CPR course, kid. Help it.
I don't know. We left early. Well, does anyone know what to do? Please.
Get out the way. Get out. Come on, wake up. Better go find help, quick. Right. Come on. What? You bastard.
Mr. J, do you realize what you've done?
Yeah, a real stupid thing.
No, you saved a man's life.
Well, that guy don't deserve to live. He wouldn't like nothing better but to see me swinging at the end of the rope.
But for a second, you forgot that and just saw another human being.
Yes, and that makes you a better man than he can ever hope to be. Mr. J, you breathed the life back into him.
I should have inhaled.
Mr. Jefferson.
What do you want?
Well, I just wanted to thank you for saving my dad's life.
Well, forget it.
How you doing, Dad?
I'm tired, son. Real tired.
Well, we'll get you to the hospital. You can rest there.
Yeah, we can ride down with you.
No, you two stay here and continue the meeting. It's important to the cause.
Dad. Well, the paramedic said if Mr. Jefferson hadn't given you CPR, you wouldn't have made it.
He saved my life?
Yeah.
You should have let me die.
See that? They never change. You saved their life and they still don't change. Come on, let's get out of here.
As we were saying, the purpose of the Ku Klux Klan is to promote white supremacy and preserve our inalienable right to maintain racial dignity. We are constantly bombarded by cries for minority rights. We hear about black rights, Latin rights. Well, what about white rights? Now, don't worry, Dwayne. They'll be back soon enough. They'll see we're right. The white race has got to stick together.
You know, remarkable scene. I will never forget the first time I saw that. And the Pathmark guy, as I'll refer to him, I don't know what his name is. I forget what his name is. But every time I saw him on a Pathmark commercial after watching that, I was disgusted by him. You know, he played two of the most despicable characters I've ever seen. That one, where he was a leader of the KKK and didn't said what he said, and to say, you should have let me die. My God, that was one of the most stunning things I ever heard on television. And then, of course, there was the Little House on the Prairie episode that he was in, where he basically came in and overtook the entire town, the very end of the season series, and wound up losing everything because everybody blew up their homes and things before they left. So he played a remarkable character. But what an incredible show! What a groundbreaking show that Sherman Hemsley was a part of for 10 years, from 75 to 85, and I just, you know, it's always sad that it takes somebody's death to realize how funny and how talented somebody is, and that is what Sherman Hemsley was. He was just a genius. His walk, his strut. My friend Kevin Coca put something about this on Facebook yesterday, just about how his strut was as awesome as it was. The way he walked into a room, it was hard not to laugh the minute he walked in, the way he would do his little gig and the way he walked and just carried himself. He was that good. And there were some wonderful scenes, some excellent scenes, and you got to check them out. They're not, as Jimmy said, they're not as good as if you're watching them on DVD, because they did heavily edit these programs. But there's some great scenes on YouTube of Sherman as George, in the earlier days from All in the Family, because don't forget, for those of you who may not be familiar with this, the Jeffersons was a spin-off of All in the Family, and they were neighbors of the Bunkers, and there were some remarkable scenes with Archie and with George, and some of the things that they can say is just it's that they said is unbelievable. It was just absolutely unbelievable. So Sherman Hemsley was gay. Is that what you're saying, Jim? I did not know that. I never knew that. If that's the case, that's something that was pretty silent. Tell me in the chat room if that's what you're saying, because I'm not sure. But regardless, plenty of clips out there for people to see of some incredible television moments for Sherman, and it really is remarkable how many of that cast are already gone. It's just terribly sad, and losing a person like Sherman is something that you don't necessarily recuperate from. So he's gone at the age of 74 after a brilliant career. I must admit, Sherman did other shows. Amen was one of the shows that he did thereafter. I wasn't that much of a fan of that show. He played a deacon in that show, and there are certain characters in certain shows who, when you see them, you instantly think of one character that they played. For me, when you think of somebody like Anthony Edwards, it's Dr. Mark Green on ER. And for others, it's the character he played in Revenge of the Nerds. For somebody like Kiefer Sutherland, it's Jack Bauer, and for Sherman Hemsley, it's George Jefferson. And so I don't know if, or I don't want to be the one to say this, but I think he's always going to be remembered as George, and maybe his success as an actor was solely defined on that, and not so much some of the other things that he did during his career, which was very successful. But I guess that basically what I'm trying to say is, even though he went on to do other things after the Jeffersons, including Amen, I still will always remember him as George, and it's tough to make that comparison. Does that make sense? I think it should, and I think that's what often happens with famed characters in Hollywood. Like I see Kiefer Sutherland on TV, and when I see him, I don't think there's Kiefer Sutherland. I actually think, there's Jack Bauer, even though it's not him. Come on, it is what it is. So I think that was somewhat of the case with Sherman, where he always will be remembered as George Jefferson. So Sherman Hemsley, dead at the age of 74, a remarkable actor, somebody who I will always remember and who I've always enjoyed and will always cherish. Without question. It is 19 minutes past the hour. Cadessa here with you on KCN 60 here on this Wednesday evening, coming to you live from just outside of downtown Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where the Philadelphia Phillies today re-signed or extended the contract of pitcher Cole Hamels, 6 years, $144 million more at minimum, up to $168 million if it's extended 7. Remarkable stuff. So we're going to take the first of 2 breaks. When we come back, I have a couple of things I want to get to. Cal Ripken's mother being kidnapped, if you haven't heard about that, remarkably bizarre story. And I also want to look at some shocking numbers. Homicide by firearms. In light of what happened in Aurora, Colorado, I did some research last night. And some of the numbers that you're going to see for a country like ours where owning a gun is legal, just remarkable. So we'll take that break. We come back. We'll get to a lot more here on KCN 60. Don't go away.
Hey kids, don't let anybody tell you what to do, except me. Wait, don't listen to me. Hey, put your hands in your gloves, your feet in your socks, your legs in your pants. Pull them up and dance, put your hands in the air, growl like a bear. Once in a while you might have to comb your hair. Put your hands in your pockets, eyes in their sockets, tongue in your mouth. Get out of the house, put your foot on.
It is 21 minutes past the hour. Canessa back with you here on KC in 60. For those of you who may be new to the program, it is possible for you to come on the show with me if you have something that you want to talk about. if you have a webcam, or if you have a microphone and headphones on your computer. And I put together a quick little tutorial on how to do that, because I like the interaction. If you've watched the fan forum with Joel McGurk, you've seen me on with him, and you've seen some other guests on with him, where we can use our webcam, the power of a webcam, to become part of the show. But some people just see it and not sure quite how to do it. I put together a little tutorial on how to do that, and here's exactly how to do that if you would like to become part of this program, or any others for that matter, here on DARPA TV. Take a look at this before we get into some other stuff. What's up, everybody? Kevin Canessa here to show you how easy it is to get yourself on the air using a webcam, a microphone, and headphones here on DARPA TV. The first thing you'll notice under the white screen, which would normally be the show, is a set of lips. In order to get on the air, you need to click those lips. And that's what I did. You'll notice this little box comes up where you have to put in your username and password, which is exactly what I'm doing. If you don't have one already, just click the register button and you can get one. Once you log in, you click the lips again, and this box comes up. There's some choices here. Built-in eyesight. The first choice is where all your cameras are going to be that you have on your computer. You have to choose the one you want to use. Then, underneath, there's another set of dialogues, which is the microphone that you want to use. You choose the one that you want to use there. Now, once you're done, click the test button, and this dialog box will come up. You have to click Allow to allow it to access your camera, which is what I'm going to do. And you'll notice that I am now on the screen. Can you see me there? That's because I chose the right camera. And if you hear yourself coming back to you, when you speak like a half a second delay, you know you've chosen the right microphone. Important thing, at this point, you must have headphones on. You can't go on the air. If you don't, there'll be too much reverb. If you hear yourself and you see yourself, you click those two buttons and click I pass, put me on the air. Now, if by chance you don't have a webcam or you're too shy to go on the air, but you have a microphone and headphones, you see I've clicked only I hear myself. I'll click it again so you can see it. And it says, I pass, put me on DARPA TV on audio only, which is really good if you don't have a webcam or you're shy. In this case, I'm going to click I see myself and I hear myself, because I've got both, and that's really the point of this video. Click that. You'll notice now you're in the upper right corner. You're ready to go on the air. When the host calls on you, it will change from where it says in call queue to live caller, and you'll know that you're on the air. It's that simple. I hope you'll consider doing this and taking part in my show or Joel's show or any of the shows on DARPA TV. You can have a lot of fun doing this. That's it. Of course, if you have any questions, you can always send me a message on Twitter at Kevin Canessa or by email at kevincanessa@gmail.com. Thanks for watching, everybody, and hope to see you on a show soon. So there it is, a little Canessa tutorial. I haven't done one of those in a long time. Always have fun playing around with that stuff. So, of course, if you have a chance, do feel free to shove in, or whatever it's called, DARP in. I don't know what they call it now that it's DARPA. Used to be shoved because of Shovio. Call in using your webcam. And if you don't have a webcam or you're shy, you could always come in audio only. The only thing is you need headphones, because the amount of reverb is ridiculous, and you'll never be able to talk. Trust me. Joel is saying, fucking people, I swear, they think that I can just make up a price for the room for the amount of haggling that people do. It's crazy. Yeah, I worked with somebody recently who was a desk clerk, worked at a hotel, and she said that they do have some, or like she did at least, she had some leeway to negotiate a price, but only to a certain degree. But people are ridiculous. The amount that, I guess they want to pay like 55 cents to stay in a hotel room. I mean, it's ridiculous what people want or what they ask for. So I mean, it is quite insane. I feel for you, Joel. My buddy Joel McGurk, who's in the chat room, is at work at Port St. Lucie in Florida, working at a Holiday Inn hotel, and people are just strange. I would hate to have to deal with the public like that. It's just amazing how stupid some people are. I'm going to put up a graphic, and if you cannot see it, what you need to do is click on the picture, and it'll get rid of my ugly face, which is probably a good thing for you to do. And this is a statistic that goes back to 2009. It was the most recent that I could find, and the numbers are startling. I bring this up because of what we saw in Aurora, Colorado, just the other day with that terrible shooting in the movie theaters. Gun-related homicides in the year 2009 in the United States of America. In the year 2009, these are non-suicidal homicides. 9,146 people lost their lives from being shot by a gun with a firearm in the United States in the year 2009. 9,146 people. In the United Kingdom, whose population is significantly lower than ours, there are 64 some odd million people who live in the United Kingdom now and around 2009. 39 people lost their lives as a result of being shot by a gun, by a firearm, by somebody who had one in their hands. If you were to take that number, 39, and you were to base it on a percentage of population, since the population is so much smaller in the United Kingdom than it is here in the United States of America, and let's just say on a percentage basis that the UK and the USA had the same population, that still only would have translated into 195 gun-related homicides in the year 2009 in the United Kingdom. And so, if you look at that, there is almost a difference of 9,000 fewer homicides in the United Kingdom than in the United States in 2009. 9,146 people lost their lives in our country in 2009. Now, I understand there are going to be people who will say, again, we hear this all the time, that in the United States, the guns don't kill people, people kill people. Okay. But the bottom line is the availability of guns in this country, where we are guaranteed a right to possess such arms, which they are not in the United Kingdom. They are not permitted in Japan, another country where there were even fewer homicides in 2009. Not only are they not allowed to possess them, their constitution specifically says, and you got to keep this in mind, folks, that we helped rewrite the Japanese constitution after World War II. And in that constitution, residents, citizens are strictly prohibited from possessing guns in Japan. And the same thing in the United Kingdom. Residents are specifically prohibited from possessing handguns. The homicide rate is staggeringly different. You can see it as clear as day in these numbers. 9,146 versus 39. It's gotten to a point where it's embarrassing in this country that people... I've softened my stance after what I saw here in Aurora the other day. I once believed in the Second Amendment and truly believed that people do have the right to possess an arm, but the times are so different now. The countries where possession of a firearm is not permissible, the homicide rates are staggeringly lower. We live in a country where we tell people here, take these guns and do whatever the fuck you want with these guns, and that's exactly what's happening. And there's going to be some people who turn around and they say, well, you know, it didn't matter with this guy. He had a mission. If he wanted to do what he did, he could have found another way to do it. That's fine. But it's at the point right now where not enough's being done, and there are just too many guns on the streets. And, you know, if guns were not permissible and companies who made these guns were not allowed to make them, they would disappear eventually. They would have to. They would have to. It's just a supply and demand thing. Eventually, this would take decades to fix. I understand that, but it is at a point right now where it's almost embarrassing to be an American and see this in our nation. We are the laughing stock of the world when it comes to possession of firearms. I was listening, and again, there are some people who will say, well, it's the Brits. Well, you know, I have a very strong affection and affinity to the British people and British culture. I was listening to one of the radio stations there that I do very often, LBC 97.3, and one of the presenters, commentators, was talking about how in this country people just are mocked because of the way we are with guns. When you consider In that country where guns are not permitted, or where residents just can't own a gun because they have a constitutional right to own a gun, when you consider how fewer homicides there are in the country, it makes sense that gun control does work. Again, when this was all built into the Constitution hundreds of years ago, we lived in a society where people didn't have police forces to protect them, where people had to protect their own land, and they had to protect their families, and they had to protect their own property, because there were no other ways for property and people to be protected. You had to do it yourself. There were no constables. There were no police officers out patrolling in wagons in 1790, okay? And there were no cops driving around in 1855, okay? That just wasn't the way it was at that point in time. So people needed to possess firearms because in every society, in every race, in every culture, there are criminals. There are people who are demented and deranged, okay? And that has nothing to do with firearms at all. There's no connection to that necessarily. We lived in a time in this country where, because of intense lawlessness, people needed to possess guns. They did, because if they didn't, there'd be no other way to protect themselves. But we don't live in such a society anymore. We don't. And Barack Obama has said nothing about this. Mitt Romney has said nothing about this. Chris Christie, that fat toad, is on the air saying people shouldn't be politicizing this event that took place in Aurora, Colorado. Well, shut your mouth, oh fatso. Me calling anybody fatso is kind of funny, I understand that. But the truth of the matter is, you stupid toad, that this is the time where the discussion needs to happen. Because people like him and people like Mitt Romney and people like Barack Obama have kept their mouths shut way too much because the gun lobby, the National Rifle Association, and people who love to tote their guns are way, way, way too powerful in this country. They give too much money to politicians. The politicians bow and kowtow to them. And that is what happens when you live in a country where possessing a firearm is a legal right. And after this, I just don't understand it. I just don't get the necessity of it. You want to go hunt? Use a bow and fucking arrow. You don't need a gun if you want to hunt. And if you really, I'm sorry. I just can't get it. Michael Moore is somebody who is a very controversial figure in this country, and there are many times I think he's nuts and he flies off the handle. He says things that are bizarre, anti-American. I understand where there is a faction of Americans who don't like the guy, Michael Moore, speaking of fat toads. But he was on with Piers Morgan last night, and he challenged Barack Obama, somebody who he is a staunch and ardent supporter thereof. And I was very, very pleased that Michael Moore said and did what he did last night on the Piers Morgan show. And he basically called out Barack Obama a father. Okay, keep that in mind. He called out Barack Obama the father yesterday, which is a very difficult thing to do when you take a politician and go into their personal lives. But that's exactly what Moore did yesterday, and here is what he said. For the first time, I find myself agreeing with the man.
But the president has to be the leader on this. You know, when he was standing there in front of the microphone in Aurora the other night, you know, he's such a great guy. I mean, he's the heart that he has, the things that he said were so powerful, and yet, when he brought his own children into it, when he said, you know, my two daughters go to the movies, and what if it were them? Well, I guess if President Obama is watching right now, and I say this with all due respect, what if it were them? What if it were them last Thursday night? Would you stand at the microphone the next day and say, I feel your pain, and, you know, the existing gun laws, this is what he said, the existing laws are enough. Is that really what you'd say, Mr. President? I don't think so. And you and I and everybody, we have to see these children, these young people who were killed on Thursday night, Friday morning, we have to see them as our children. We as Americans, and this is really where the larger collective problem has to be fixed. We have to see that we're part of each other, and we have to take care of each other. The reason why they have universal health care in Canada and Britain, these other places, because they believe if one suffers, everybody suffers. That is not our mentality. Our mentality is, I got mine, you get yours, and to hell with everybody else. Hell, at least I wasn't in that theater, you know. I mean, we have to stop this. We have to stop this attitude toward each other. We have to realize that those were our children who were killed there this past weekend. And if you treat it like that, man, I think if everybody honestly really felt that way, we would have some change in this country, and these politicians would respond quickly. If people would just rise up and say, damn it, this is not the America I'm going to live in. This is too great of a country to let this happen again. I am not going to let this happen again. And I am not going to come on another damn TV show either after the next one of these shootings, Pierce, because I haven't done it for 10 years. To be nice to you, and you're a good guy, and you made a good case to me to come on, but I'm sick of this. I refuse it. I refuse to live in a country like this, as I said and before, and I'm not leaving. So therefore, what am I going to do? It's got to change. And I invite Americans who feel the same way as I do, and I believe it's the majority, to help me change this. Help everyone change this.
Part of the reason I showed this video was because I knew if Frog were lingering in the background, it would somehow bring him out of the hiding woodwork. So Froggy, of course, is the staunchest supporter of the Second Amendment that I've ever known in my entire life. But after what happened in Colorado, it's just remarkable. It is just remarkable. Some reporters went into the same stores where this nutcase went in and bought his guns, and were able to get guns in 30 minutes. And they were apologizing to him because it took so long for him to waiting for a half hour. Some crazy shit. And boy, it's good to see Froggy. I'm sure you probably missed, if you missed what I said before, you probably wouldn't be talking to me right now because I went on a little rampage about the Second Amendment. But I still love you, Frog. I always will, and I'm so glad to see you, our buddy Frog Hill from the Cleveland, Ohio area. Always good to see you. It's been a long time since I've had a chance to talk to you. And it's always nice to have a reunion here on DARPATV.com, of which we used to be Shovio many ions ago. I've been doing a show on a semi-regular basis again, and I hope to continue to do so. And when I have good friends who come back to visit, it always makes it easier. Yeah, I was talking about the Colorado ordeal earlier. And some staggering statistics. I'm just going to pop it up one last time so you can see them. Again, this is pure fact. These are the statistics of gun-related homicides in 2009. The United States, 9,146. In the United Kingdom, 39. And that was what my argument was about. So, some very, very interesting stuff. In comic book movies, yeah. I still, I don't want to make light of this situation. I still don't get the fascination with Batman and all these comic book movies. I never did. I don't know why people are so into it. It's 39 minutes past the hour. Kness here with you on KCN60 on this Wednesday evening. We are going to take the second of two DARPA TV breaks. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the sex abuse scandal in the Catholic Church. Monsignor William Lynn of the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Philadelphia was sentenced to 3 to 6 years in prison. The first Roman Catholic official in the United States to be sent to prison on account of the sex abuse scandal that broke in the early 2000s here in the United States. And it's a good step. It's a step in the right direction. And hopefully, when we talk about this, hopefully there'll be plenty more priests who wind up going to the same place that he did. And there's a whole bunch of other things that to get to, including Cal Ripken's mother being kidnapped the other day at gunpoint. You're watching KCN60 on DARPA TV. Do not go away, because we'll be right back.
Going this whole, match debate, Omar Minaya and Jose Reyes.
Masturbate?
What?
You said this whole masturbate, Omar Minaya and Jose
No,
Reyes.
Mets debate.
Oh,
Mets.
Okay, but it did sound like you said masturbate.
Going this whole, match debate. Going this whole, match debate, match debate, match debate, match debate, match debate. Match debate, match debate, match debate, match debate, match debate.
.42, almost 43 past the hour. Canessa back with you here on KC in 60 on this Wednesday evening. Really good seeing Froggy around. That was a classic moment from KC in 60. Back on the Shovio days. Masturbate, Mets debate. And, of course, the big Mets debate now is how awful can they get? They've lost, 32 games in a row now, and they've completely dropped out of the playoff picture after having a wonderful first half of the season. They are done. They got swept again, this time by the Washington Nationals again, and that is not good. That is not good at all. They are pretty bad. So, unfortunately, they are done. Always good to see Rodzilla. I hope Rodzilla is doing well. I got an email from his brother, Matt, who some of you may recall would come and watch the shows periodically. His brother, Matt, is a great kid, and I heard from him. So I guess they're doing okay. I guess they are doing okay. So good shit there, and we will see. Now, a whole bunch of other smaller news stories. Well, I shouldn't say smaller news stories because these are not necessarily small in stature. But as I had mentioned before the break, Msgr. William Lynn of the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Philadelphia was sentenced today to 3 to 6 years in prison for his role in the cover-up of sex abuse of young children. Here's a little bit about the story, then I have a couple of things I want to say about it on the other side.
In a Philadelphia courtroom today, a high-ranking Catholic clergyman learned he is heading to jail for covering up a sex abuse scandal in his church. The judge was scathing, saying he deliberately chose not to protect children from monsters in their midst. ABC's Lindsay Davis has more.
Msgr. William Lynn, the first official in the Catholic Church convicted of a crime for shielding priests known to be predators, learned today he'll have to pay a 3 to 6 year penance behind bars.
He locked in a vault the names of men that he knew had abused children. He now will be locked away for a fraction of the time he kept that sacred vault.
Lynn was the official in the Philadelphia Archdiocese in charge of investigating sex abuse allegations against priests, but he was convicted of covering them up. And during sentencing today, the judge told Lynn he allowed monsters in clerical garb to destroy the souls of children to whom you turned a hard heart. A message that was welcomed by survivors of child abuse at the hands of priests.
We believe that this will have a tremendous deterrent effect on other church officials who even now may be concealing child sex crimes. The day is gone when you can ignore and enable child sex crimes in a church and hope to get by with it scot-free.
But the Monsignor's lawyer said Lynn had just been following orders and vowed to appeal.
All of a sudden, he's being held responsible for all of the abuse that occurred over 30 to 40 years, none of which he participated in.
A similar case is pending in Kansas. So while Lynn was the first U.S. church official convicted for his handling of child sex abuse claims, he may not be the last. Lindsay Davis, ABC News, New York.
I certainly hope Msgr. Lynn is not the last of hierarchy priests to go to prison for the sex abuse scandal. And I can just think of so many off the top of my head. I actually found out that the man who was principal of my high school in let me just give you a little backup here. My first year in high school was 1988, September of 1988. I was a freshman. And in 1988, in September, there was a new principal. The guy who left the June before I started, Father James F. Kuntz, Kuntz. Yes, that is his name, Father Kuntz. And you can imagine what he was called quite a bit while he was the principal of St. Peter's Prep. A couple of years ago, was convicted of having a ridiculous amount of child pornography on his computer. And what we have seen over the years, again, is that guys like Msgr. Lynn and numerous amounts of bishops would take a case like Kuntz's and just throw it away, put it under the rug, and take him from point A and send him to point B. And if he was at a school, might send him to a parish. If he was in a parish, you might send him to be a chaplain in a hospital. That is what these guys did. That is what they did. They would just constantly say, okay, if Father John Doe is molesting boys at Our Lady of Grace Church, the easiest thing to do is send him to a hospital where all he's going to have to do is deal with elderly people. He won't do it again. But these predators found ways of doing it. And now, finally, a guy like Msgr. Lynn, who was responsible for taking priests from point A to point B, keeping them in ministry, in active ministry, he's the first one to finally go to prison. And unfortunately, I think there are probably hundreds more like him who deserve a similar fate and that may get away with it, because there are a lot of prosecutors who are weak and who are afraid to prosecute priests over shit like this. But this is a guy who turned an eye on so many children being abused, let these priests stay in active ministry, and the more he let them stay in active ministry, the more they abused, the more children's lives they ruined, the more families they ruined, the more they were disgusting, despicable human beings. So good for the judge in this case for giving him 3 to 6 years. I hope he does the maximum. This is a scumbag who has no business being in active ministry, never did, turned his eye, ruined too many lives, and now he pays the ultimate price. That's Msgr. William Lynn of the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So goodbye, good luck, and don't let the door hit you on the ass as you walk into prison, Msgr. If you didn't hear this one, this came out of nowhere. This came out of nowhere today. I had no idea this happened. I had no idea this happened yesterday, but apparently Cal Ripken's mother at gunpoint was kidnapped. Luckily they found her, but here's the interesting story.
Ripken found. Vi, the mother of Cal, was missing, but is now safe.
The investigation into what happened.
Good afternoon, I'm Don Scott.
And I'm Jessica Cartalia.
And here's what people are talking about today. The breaking news from overnight involving 74-year-old Violet, or Vi Ripken. Police say they discovered her unharmed hours after she was kidnapped. Mike Helgren has the latest on this breaking news this noon. Good afternoon, Mike.
Good afternoon, Don. Good afternoon, everybody. Aberdeen police now tell WJZ that Vi Ripken was abducted by a man with a gun at her home. She was found in her car very close to her house this morning, about 24 hours after this all started, and police are now looking for the man who took her. Police issued an alert reporting the 74-year-old missing from Baltimore County. That alert came this morning, about an hour before she was found. Authorities said Ripken first went missing just after 8 o'clock last night. They put out this picture of her and a picture of her Lincoln Town car. Authorities said it was last seen on Ebenezer Road in Essex. Violet Ripken, known as Vi, is the mother of Orioles great Cal Ripken Jr. and Billy Ripken. WJZ interviewed her many times over the years.
We were blessed with children that were very coordinated. I mean, you knew that from an early age, the things that they did, not just necessarily they were early walkers, but the way they handled things, and not necessarily a ball, but when they picked up and threw an object or something.
Authorities found her in Harford County. That's where she lives, and police in Aberdeen are now handling the investigation. And police say the man they're looking for is in his late 30s, early 40s, wearing camouflage pants. Again, he was armed with a handgun. Ms. Ripken is now resting with her family. She had no injuries. Paramedics did check her out, Don.
Remarkable story, somehow, the mother of Cal Ripken being kidnapped. Fortunately, she is okay. Somebody suggesting, I think it was Frog in the chat room, saying maybe Billy had her kidnapped. God only knows. I don't know what the hell Billy Ripken is doing these days, if he's doing TV or radio or something like that. I know Cal is, and I don't like him. I don't think he's even that good. Again, you know, just sometimes you have a name, it's enough to get you on the air in this country. I just never quite understood it. 55 minutes past the hour, and Canessa here with you on KC and 60. That's going to do it for tonight's edition of KC and 60. Yeah, it went really, really fast. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here tonight. A special thanks and welcome home to Frog Hill. It's always good to see you, buddy. I'll be back on the air again, not tomorrow, because Joel the Mouth will be doing his show tomorrow at 7 o'clock Eastern Time over on sportsrantsradio.com. That's sportsrants with a Z, radio.com. In fact, let me show you quickly Joel's commercial here, just so that you know what's going on tomorrow. So don't forget, tomorrow night at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, it is The Mouth on Sports on sportsrantsradio.com. I hope you get a chance to check that out. It's a great program. Joel's doing great things, and he continues to be phenomenal and doing great stuff. I will probably come back Saturday or Friday and do a show. I'll let you know. Check Twitter and check Facebook. I'll announce it there. And I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. It's always an honor and always a pleasure to have you here. So glad to see so many great faces from the good old days. So that'll do it for me, just outside of downtown Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Canessa signing off for now, and we will see you again next time on KCN 60. Good night, everybody.